Mr. Secretary General, distinguished guests, we are joined by representatives from governments because we all have a responsibility to ensure the security, the prosperity, and the human rights of our citizens. And we're joined by leaders of civil society, including many faith leaders, because civil society, reflecting the views and the voices of citizens, is vital to the success of any country. I thank all of you, and I welcome all of you. We come together from more than 60 countries from every continent. We speak different languages, born of different races and ethnic groups, belong to different religions. We are here today because we are united.
Our three main issues that we will try to resolve are religion, so that everyone can practice their religion freely and not be discriminated against. Government, so that not one person has total control over the nation. And military, so that if someone were to attack, or that person would need to attack someone, they could either defend or go to war if need be.
There are three main religions in the Middle East: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The biggest problem with religion in the Middle East is that there are many countries fighting over land, especially land that is their sacred land or their homeland. To combat all this fighting, we are ready to propose a bill that will create an agreement between countries on whose land is whose. There are many sacred monuments in the Middle East, and sometimes those monuments are shared by two different countries, which can cause tension between the countries on whose land it really is. Many different beliefs are present, and sometimes they can collide with one another and create conflict, just like the conflict between the Arabs and Israelis. This conflict has lasted for over 100 years and included the following wars: the 1948 War of Independence, the 1956 Sinai War, the 1967 Six-Day War, and the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Our plan will stop the current conflicts and also prevent future ones from happening.
Profess to stand up for Islam, but in fact are betraying it. We see ISIS, a brutal, vicious death cult that, in the name of religion, carries out unspeakable acts of barbarism. So how do we, as people of faith, reconcile these realities? The profound good, the strength, the tenacity, the compassion and love that can flow from all of our faiths, operating alongside those who seek to hijack religious for their own murderous ends.
Governments in the Middle East are also a huge problem. Many of them are very unstable, and many have a leader that has tyrant or dictatorship qualities. Most governments in the Middle East are either a democracy or a monarchy, with Iraq being the only one having a dictatorship. To help remedy these governments, we have a proposal to get rid of all monarchies and dictatorships because we believe that one person should not have total rule over the entire nation. We suggest that all governments in the Middle East switch to a democracy because we believe that it is most fit, seeing that everyone will be able to have a voice in the government itself when making decisions. With all this in mind, we believe that this can greatly increase the productivity of these governments.
That story of self-determination began 6 months ago in Tunisia. On December 17th, a young vendor named Mohamed Bouazizi was devastated when a police officer confiscated his cart. This was not unique. It's the same kind of humiliation that takes place every day in many parts of the world. The relentless tyranny of governments that deny their citizens dignity. Only this time something different happened. After local officials refused to hear his complaints, this young man, who had never been particularly active in politics, went to the headquarters of the provincial government, doused himself in fuel, and lit himself on fire. There are times in the course of history when the actions of ordinary citizens spark movements for change because they speak to a longing for freedom that has been building up for years. In America, think of the defiance of those patriots in Boston who refused to pay taxes to a king, or the dignity of Rosa Parks as she sat courageously in her seat. So it was in Tunisia, as that vendor's act of desperation tapped into the frustration felt throughout the country. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets, then thousands. And in the face of batons and sometimes bullets, they refused to go home, day after day, week after week, until a dictator of more than 2 decades finally left power.
Military in the Middle East is very incapable. This is because they have very little training and experience in the field. These incapabilities could lead to danger when it comes to being attacked, or as a country wanting to go to war, wanting to attack. Military leaders must gain more knowledge in the field of military logistics so that this danger is not a common occurrence. Our proposal will require all militaries to go through extensive training and planning before taking action on the battlefield. That way it will prevent any danger from occurring. Our proposal will also require all militaries to set aside a budget for weapons if needed.
Typically, criticism of our foreign policy has been directed at the failure to use military force. And the question I think I would have is, why is it that everybody's so eager to use military force?